Hi everyone, it's Nicole Noasad and welcome to my channel. I'm super excited today to be celebrating SaraScraps 5-year YouTube anniversary with this blog hop, or, well, video hop I guess we'll call it, with a whole bunch of scrappers. I'm going to put a whole bunch of the links for the rest of the hoppers in my comment section so you can hop along. I know Sara has some really great prizes planned, so you don't want to miss out seeing all the different videos and inspiration along the way. I'm playing with the Hello Today collection from Simple Stories today, and I really wanted to use these chipboard frames to start off my project and kind of frame out my 3 photos that I have here. And I'm really just making a really kind of fun page. I love this collection and I just wanted to use a whole lot of it. So I'm going to go ahead and just start off with my black and white photos here and lay down those photos on the back of the frames. I'm going to apologize right now because I realize my video is a little crooked, but I promise you as things progress I move more properly up the page, so I'm going to apologize in advance for that. I really wanted to use more of those frames, but to be honest, sometimes a 12 by 12 you can't do all that. So I know I want to put my photos kind of in a line along the top kind of mid-section of my page, and I really want to use a lot of this paper. I love all these pretty patterns here, and so to me the best way to do that is just to really trim them down and make a bit of a kind of a collage sort of feel. So I'm just going to trim from all of these strips of paper a 1 by 12 inch strip, and then I'm going to trim each of those strips down further. And I'm really trying to make sure that I have a good collection of colors. I'm using the B-sides of all of these papers. Obviously, I'm not using the back there with those really fun cards, but I have other ideas for those. So that's why I'm trying to salvage as much of that paper as I possibly can, because it is really pretty and a lot of different fun options for it. So 1 inch by 12 inch strips from each of these strips of paper to start. And I like to make sure when I'm doing something like this that I have a lot of paper. I like to have options. I don't like to run short. So I am going to trim each one down just to a 1 inch square, from each of the strips. And no, I won't pain you with seeing me do this like 12 more times, but you do want to make sure that you kind of have enough paper to play around with. So what I'm going to do is, now that my papers are all cut, is I'm just going to kind of, and this is the part I need to apologize for my crappy videomanship today, but I have my photos kind of placed where I want them, and I'm just going to build a bit of a grid. So I'm going to start off on the bottom edge of the cardstock with these 1 inch strips and using my ruler just to kind of get it started so that I make sure that it's straight. Because even though you've cut 1 inch by 1 inch strips, if you're not trimming straight on your cutter, they could be a little wonky. And I've added adhesive down, and I'm just making sure that I have like about a 2 inch gap on each side of those squares. I am going to cut down another strip of paper because I feel like I don't have enough neutrals. Whenever you're working with this much pattern paper, you really want to make sure that you have a good amount of neutral built into your project. Otherwise, it's just going to be too much like, whoa, take a look at that. So you really want to make sure you have enough neutrals. So even though I'm using a lot of the pattern, even though this one here has little bits of color, it's still a fairly neutral kind of palette. So you want to make sure you add that. I'm not messing around here. I really want to do this quickly. So I'm going to add a bunch of adhesive and then really just start playing by adding those squares along my kind of grid that I'm making. It's really not hard. You just need to kind of make sure that you're alternating all your pieces. It's kind of cool if you have, how many papers do I have there? I think I have 8 papers and I'm using 8 cubes. So in that case, I should have a good collection. Every row will be different, but will be the same patterns repeating. If you wanted to, you could add in cardstock that's neutral to kind of add a bit of a variant as well. But again, just make sure when you do something like this that you mix it up so that you don't have like 2 of those yellow blocks together as an example. You really want to make sure you have a really good variety. And this is where those kind of neutral pieces do make really important sense, because if you don't have enough neutrals, this could be extremely, extremely busy, and you don't want that. You want it to look pretty and nice, and you don't want it to be too much, right? Also, you got to keep in mind when you're working with a stripe, I don't know if you can see there, but I have a couple stripes running up and down, and the same stripe paper is running, horizontally. So you want to make sure that you kind of balance that off too. Either you kind of commit to one way, or you make sure that you kind of even out. You don't have to, if you have 3 that run horizontal and 1 that's vertical, you're going to notice that. But if you have a good collection of both, it won't be quite so obvious. So I'm just trying to decide here what to put in. And then I'm going to go do a whole lot along the top. I'm not going to do the whole block all the way up because I know I'm going to cover a good 3-4 inches of that area with the photos. So why do all that work just to cover it up? Makes no sense to me. Why waste all that product too? So I'm going to go ahead and just keep on sticking down in the same manner. I'm just using my ruler obviously to line up the top and the bottom sections so that I don't have kind of an off-kilter top to my bottom, if that makes any sort of sense. And I'm just going to keep on going until I have that done. I don't do quite as many rows here. I think I'm only going to do 3 rows just to finish off this area, because of course some of it's going to have to tuck under my photos and my layering pieces later. So you want to make sure that you just have enough to kind of cover everything up. And then I am actually going to do a whole lot of stitching on this page. So my kind of thought with this project is I really wanted that funky kind of quilted look. So I know my photos are here, and I've gone back to my sewing machine and spent probably about 15 minutes, to be honest, sewing the heck out of this project. So I sewed up and down and across, all willy-nilly. I haven't at all paid attention to it being straight. You will see better detail near the end in the close-ups. But I've done a lot of sewing all the way up and down, and I crisscrossed, and I really wanted that freehand quilted look to the bottom of the page. So you'll see that in the close-ups later on. But I spent probably a good 15-20 minutes just sewing those pieces to get that kind of fun look. Now I'm trying to decide what to do for my title. The problem with a page like this is there's a lot of color going on. So this again is why it's important to bring in neutrals. I am going to bring in something separate that I decided while I was thinking about what sort of title I could use and what alphas I could use for that I would cut out some of these flowers from this paper. It's a really obviously great neutral, and no, I won't bore you with all the fussy cutting that I will do, but I probably cut about 6 or 7 little clusters from that to use for later on. And then I realized I had these thickers in my stash from Pebbles, I think they're from Girl Squad. And I thought that's a really good, fun black script that'll look good on all this like heavy pattern paper. So I'm going to use that for part of my title. And I'm going to add more title at the end. I actually don't even shoot it in the video. I add it like after the fact. But I'm going to use some of these ephemera tags to layer in an area where I'm going to finish developing out my title. And I'm just layering them. I'm not going to foam adhesive these at all. Normally I probably would. But in this case, I'm just making sure I have a good mix of like the plain tags so that I can add a little bit of my title in there. And to be honest, it's almost giving you a place to rest your eye a little bit off of all of that kind of quilty part that I did on the bottom. So I'm just going to stick these puppies down, and I'm going to cut the top of that tag off and use the bottom here. And I'll end up using the top along the top edge of my photo up there, so I don't really waste a whole lot. Next, I'm going to go ahead and start adding some of these florals in to fill in the gaps that I have now. So I'm going to use the same foam tape as I did for the photo, so it kind of all is at the same eye level. And I'm just going to pop those up really pretty in around the edge. These would be pretty awesome, I think, if you watercolored them. But again, because of all the paper and all the different patterns, I'm not going to do that. It would be just way too much color. I think in this instance, I really want to have neutrals so that you kind of can still see my photos and not have a whole color parade happening. So you really want to have a good balance, I would say, between the color and the neutrals. Anyway, so now I'm going to go on to my stickers and filling in some of my gaps with ephemera. So I have this fun camera I know I'm going to use. I'm going to stick this arrow in the bottom kind of corner of my photo to fill that in. I love this sticker, or sorry, this is an ephemera piece too. I'm going to stick that on the other side of my photo. And again, I'm just kind of filling in that midline where all the photos and the florals kind of meet. I'm making sure everything kind of overlaps and connects together just because it gives a better connection to your project. I'm going to foam this camera and add one of these really cool, I actually thought these were brads, but they're not. They're just like stickers, so that makes them even better. I'm going to add that heart one there to the middle of the camera, and then I'm going to pop up this neutral heart and add that onto my kind of tagged area. There's a lot of good stickers on this sheet, as you can see, and it was killing me not to use a whole lot of them because there's a lot of good stuff on a sheet like that. It's so good for so many different projects. I know I'll use this collection probably 3-4 times. I would not be surprised. All right, so now I think I'm just kind of finishing off all the little bits, filling in the frame there with a sticker, and here is that stitching I was talking about. So took a little bit of work to do all of this, but I really love the detail of that overlap. It's kind of really pretty. I love all those flowers just fussy cut fluttered across the page, and this is probably one of my new favorite projects that I've done. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure you check out all the other videos. The comments are in all the hop addresses are in the comments below, and thanks for joining me. I will see you again soon. Bye bye.